Hello everybody. So I've had now 2 days of the Sydney test. Lot of rain, and we've only just finished the first innings. Usman Khawaja came into the team, and this is the fourth test, and arguably, considering the amazing form he's been in lately, he should have been playing all four. But he scored a century. I think it was 132. Similar to Travis Head, which shouldn't really surprise anyone when you consider that he and Travis Head were the two most informed players in the domestic circuit. And if you can imagine, if they'd both played, we could have had twin centuries in the first test and had good performances all the way through. And even if Khawaja didn't score a century in the first test, they're both in just such great form that it just would be hard to imagine them failing. And this now raises this big question as to why we have Marcus Harris in the side, and that's the obvious person to replace one of them with. And obviously Khawaja has opened at test level, has an average of 90 as a test opener, so it would seem as if he would be a good choice to be an opener. And yet we're persisting with Marcus Harris, who, we have to be honest, has been pretty bad in this season. And in fact, he's been pretty bad overall. Yes, okay, he got 76 in the third test, but that was more like he let a lot of chances go, and look, it wasn't great. And I think even in this test where he looked a bit better, he only scored, I think it was 30, was it 38 perhaps, and it's just not really quite there. If 38 is a good score for you, you're probably not a very good batsman. Most people are getting 100 when it's a good score. They don't get 100 every time, but that's their good score. His good score is 38. That's a fair bit below. And I have the real feeling that he's just not at the standard, that he's not test level. And that's no disrespect to him. I'm not test level either. I've never even played first class cricket or first grade cricket or fourth grade cricket. Heck, I struggle in the backyard. So I'm not comparing myself to that. I'm just saying that compared to what we do have, Marcus Harris isn't there. And if we look realistically, the person that Harris is really covering for is Will Pucovski. Now, Pucovski is an amazing talent, but he just keeps getting injured, particularly with concussions. And he reminds me a little bit, Pucovski does, of Pat Cummins, when Cummins had an amazing test debut and then just kept getting injured. And I think he spent 6 years, maybe 8 years, where he barely played any kind of match of any form, because he just kept succumbing to injury after injury after injury. And I think we can see a parallel between that and Will Pucovski. Now, when Cummins finally did come back and had an extended run in the side, well, world number one test bowler and captain now. I mean, thanks to a few things going on, but that's, I think, the potential that Pucovski has. And given that it's really just a cover role, why do we need to worry about someone that's not test level? Why not put in someone that deserves the spot? And yes, Khawaja's 35 and might only play for another year or two, but if you're going to cover someone, perhaps that's a good idea. I mean, Harris isn't a long-term prospect, no matter how young he is. He's just not that level. And look, I fully support him being given the chance when he was, not in this series, but a few years ago, because he was in good form and he looked like he might be test level, but then he just failed at the big time. And I mean, I don't think he failed straight away, but eventually, certainly now, I think that he's not really at that level anymore. So I think when Head comes back, we should just get rid of Harris and put Khawaja into open. And I just think that that's the only sensible way to go forward. That's the fair thing to do. Why are we dumping somebody after a century? I'd at least want to see, can Khawaja keep scoring? He's certainly got a lot more potential than Harris does. And I mean, there's people like Matt Renshaw who had a lot of potential, but then and look, I think he did quite well at test level, but then just sort of faded, and Joe Burns was another one. And I'd rather look to people like Joe Burns or Matt Renshaw rather than Marcus Harris, who I think has just failed and just not that level. And they've got Nick Maddinson, I think. Well, I know he has been better lately at first class level, but his conversion to the test level was awful. And I'd be scared of putting him in. And then you've got the new people, and I don't really think there is anyone really shining through except for Will Pukowski. And if we can get Pukowski in there when we can, and when we can do so safely, I think we should. He's a shining light. And I mean, there's a lot of people in the middle order that are doing well, and I suppose it's perhaps a lot easier to get the big run to the middle order than it is as an opener. We have to take that into account, but also we don't want to see it being just a walking wicket. At the very least, they should be defensive and block it out for a little while for the middle order to capitalise. Otherwise, why not push someone from the middle order up to open? I mean, we could do that with Labuschagne. People have said he's virtually an opener anyway, but why not put Khawaja in? Why not have somebody that has that opening experience, that is, sure, getting on a bit in years, but give him that chance to prove himself and see how he goes. And I don't think it's a big risk. I don't think it's, let's say he plays for 2 years, and then Pukowski comes in and says, look, I'm recovered. I've worked out how to deal with my concussion issues, wearing big, thick helmets perhaps, and then he's good to go. And, and Khawaja will say, thanks for the last 2 years, really appreciate it. And then off he goes. And I think that's the way we've got to go. I think that's the right thing to do. And, again, I think Khawaja should have played all 5 tests, but I do understand why he missed the first. I don't understand why he missed the second, especially not the third. But look, we've got him in here now, and I think we've got to keep him. Particularly, he's just got a century. How much more in denial can we be? So, yeah, that's the way we've got to go. And yeah, I think that's what we've got to do. And yeah, as for this test, it looks like it's going to be washed out. I think it'll probably be a draw, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, that's it for me. Bye bye.